Think your life is hard? You wouldn't last a single sunrise in the Middle Ages. Modern life has made us soft. But for people back then, every day was a battle against hunger, disease, and filth. So let's take a walk through history and see just how quickly you'd tap out. Chapter 1. Medieval Food, a Recipe for Regret. Forget the grand feasts you see in movies. For most people, dinner was misery in a bowl. The average peasant lived on pottage, a thin stew of grains and vegetables that never stopped cooking. Each day, they'd toss in whatever they had: cabbage, onions, barley, maybe a bone. It simmered for weeks until it became a medieval mystery stew. Bread was everywhere, but not the soft kind. It was dense, dark, and full of grit from millstones that chipped into the flour. People literally ground down their teeth just eating it. And then there was ergot, a fungus that grew on rye. It caused burning sensations, hallucinations, and sometimes death. Whole villages tripped out at once, convinced demons were among them. It wasn't witchcraft, it was breakfast. Water was too filthy to drink, so everyone, even kids, drank ale. Not craft beer, weak, cloudy ale that was safer than water. Adults drank 8 pints a day. Children had it with every meal. Fish? Often salted, dry, and already starting to rot. Meat? Rare, usually old, spiced beyond recognition, or just barely edible. So yes, medieval people ate to survive, not to enjoy. Chapter 2. Sanitation, Civilization, That Stank. Now that you've eaten, you'll need a bathroom. Unfortunately, there weren't any. Most people used a chamber pot, basically a bucket under the bed. When it filled, you dumped it out the window. People shouted "Gardy Lou," meaning watch out for the water, before tossing it. But of course it wasn't water. It was a medieval sewage rainstorm. Cities smelled atrocious. The Thames was called a monster of stink, and with good reason. It carried blood, waste, and trash straight through London. Castles had stone toilets called garderobes, dropping straight down the walls. If you were lucky, it landed in a moat. If not, it stayed there. The people who cleaned cesspits were called gong farmers. They worked at night knee-deep in filth, and somehow got paid 4 times the average wage. Hazard pay, medieval edition. Toilet paper didn't exist. People used moss, rags, or their left hand. The wealthy might use wool, but no one was fresh. Chapter 3. Work, Sunrise to Sunset Survival. Life wasn't about ambition. It was about endurance. 90% of people were peasants. They woke with the sun, worked the fields all day, and collapsed after dark. No weekends, no holidays, just work, and the hope of surviving another season. Farming tools were primitive: wooden plows, dull blades, and brute strength. During harvest, they burned thousands of calories daily just to keep up. Forget the gym. This was survival fitness. Tradesmen had it no better. Blacksmiths inhaled smoke and ash. Tanners soaked hides in urine to soften leather. The smell followed them forever. Children started working as early as 7. Apprentices in forges or workshops. They could labor for a decade before earning pay. Wages were barely enough for bread. Minimum wage didn't exist. Minimum to not die did. Chapter 4. Medicine. The cure was worse than the disease. Get sick? Good luck. Medicine was a mix of superstition and bad guesses. Doctors believed illness came from an imbalance of the 4 humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. If you had a fever, the treatment was bloodletting, draining your veins into a bowl. If that didn't work, they'd add leeches. Some patients had 70 at once. Infections were death sentences. The average lifespan was barely 35 years. 1 in 3 children didn't make it past age 5. When the Black Death arrived in the 1300s, it wiped out half of Europe. The cure? Prayer and hope. Spoiler, it didn't work. Dentistry wasn't better. Toothache? They'd just pull it out. No anesthesia, no hygiene. Some remedies included mercury or lead, which killed faster than the illness. And washing your hands? Considered suspicious. Chapter 5. Justice. Guilty until proven dead. If disease didn't kill you, the legal system might. There were no police, just local watchmen shouting, "Stop, thief," and hoping someone helped. Trials were spiritual, not logical. To prove innocence, you faced trial by ordeal. You might walk 9 feet holding a red-hot iron. If your wounds healed cleanly in 3 days, you were innocent. If not, well, you weren't. Or they'd tie you up and toss you into a river. Float? Guilty? Sink? Innocent, but drowned. Executions were public events. Hanging was mild. Drawing and quartering, being dragged, disemboweled, and chopped apart, was for traitors. Crowds brought snacks. Minor crimes earned humiliation instead. Stocks, pillories, or dunking stools for gossipy women. Public shaming was the medieval version of social media. Chapter 6. Warfare, where everyone loses. If famine, filth, and justice didn't get you, war would. Europe was almost always fighting someone. The 100 Years' War lasted 116. Knights were rare. Their armor cost as much as a modern sports car. Most soldiers wore padded rags and hoped for the best. Swords were for nobles. Peasants fought with farm tools. The longbow was the era's deadliest weapon, but using it for years warped archers' bones. At Towton in 1461, nearly 28,000 men died in one day. Many froze before the battle even began. If you were wounded, infection would finish the job. The only treatment was dirt or death. And sieges were even worse. Trapped inside city walls for months, people starved, sometimes eating rats, cats, and eventually each other. That was war. No glory, just survival. Chapter 7. Everyday misery. The smell of the Middle Ages. Even when not dying, life was disgusting. The smell hit first, a mix of sweat, waste, rot, and smoke. Garbage filled the streets. Butchers dumped animal blood outside their shops. People bathed maybe twice a year. They thought water opened the pores and let in disease. Lice were everywhere, and everyone had them. Clothes were itchy, heavy, and filthy. Shoes? Thin leather that soaked through instantly. Your feet were never dry. Families lived in one room, sleeping, eating, and breathing the same air. Privacy didn't exist. Entertainment? Executions, bear baiting, or drunks in taverns. No Wi-Fi, no music, no books unless you were rich. Superstition ruled everything. Eclipses were omens. Comets meant doom. People believed in curses, demons, and magical cures. And news traveled at walking speed, meaning half of Europe could die before you even heard about it. Chapter 8. The Reality Check. So, still think you could handle life in the Middle Ages? No plumbing, no medicine, no mercy, just hard labor, bad food, and a constant fight to stay alive. Movies show knights and castles, but most people never saw a castle. They saw mud, hunger, and death every single day. So the next time you complain about traffic or your Wi-Fi cutting out, remember, at least you're not eating fungus bread, drinking warm ale for breakfast, and dodging chamber pots flying from second-story windows. Because compared to medieval life, the 21st century is pure luxury.